Harry had a day of humiliation. Let's talk about the litigious prince's ongoing war with the media. He hates the media, particularly hates the popular press, the red tops, and that obviously is the basis of all these lawsuits he keeps filing. He's got legal cases going on, obviously against the Sun, against the Daily Mirror, against the Daily Mail. He launches lawsuits like confetti. But today, I think he might have learned that stepping into the legal foray is not as simple or as easy as he thought. He's had a stinging rebuke, really, and a day of humiliation. Let's talk about his war against the media, with a former tabloid editor and actually a former deputy editor of the News of the World, editor of The People, my old friend and colleague, media commentator, former editor Neil Wallis. Hello, Neil.
Good afternoon, Kevin.
What your thoughts? I mean, I said earlier, it's hard to imagine a more damning decision, a more damning statement by a judge than what Tim Fancourt said today, that Harry's contention that the reason he didn't find out his phones were being hacked for such a long time was a secret agreement made between the parent company, News Group, that you used to work for, and the Queen. And that in return for the newspapers sort of leaving them alone, the royal family would not sue them, etc., etc. The judge said that this claim of this pact, this secret agreement made back in the 1990s, lacked plausibility and cogency. A very, very severe statement on the part of the judge.
It's been a very bad day for Prince Harry today. One of the things you've got to remember about the court system is that it is a deeply establishment place. It really doesn't like the tabloid press. It doesn't really like the press full stop, frankly, but it particularly doesn't like the tabloid press. And what you have seen in this, bear in mind this is very careful, considered judge-type language. This is a very damning verdict on Prince Harry. We saw him when he was in the giving evidence in the last case against Mirror Group, that he has little or no grasp of what he's actually alleging. He doesn't actually seem to know. He's been very badly briefed. And he trots out these allegations and doesn't bother to produce actually evidence against them. Now, during the previous cases, it has been almost laughable to hear him struggling in the witness box. But I wasn't sure that the judge would be able to resist not finding for a prince. However, this result today in throwing out all of his phone hacking allegations, particularly bearing in mind this is the sister newspaper of the News of the World, so it's hurt by association. They've thrown out all the phone hacking allegations. And not only that, this spurious agreement that he claims his own recently died grandmother was party to, he alleged, is just untrue. There is no evidence. The judge actually used the words that it was inherently unlikely that this agreement existed. Yeah. Well, that's as close as damn it to say it's untrue, that it's a lie and that it's made up. And this calls into question, I think, the whole sort of basis on which Harry is pursuing this. Does he really have a grasp of what he's into here? Or is he simply being willingly used by others who are desperate to keep the war against the tabloid press going, desperate to damage free speech and freedom of the press? One of the things you always got to remember, Kevin, the police have said they do not believe that phone hacking has continued after the original arrest back in 2006. They simply don't believe. That's 17 years ago now.
Yeah.
It's 12 years ago since the Leveson inquiry, which brought in all sorts of attempts at swinging restrictions on the press. But here we have Harry still ploughing on, being a sort of usefully used by, I think, a cabal of ambulance-chasing lawyers who are making millions upon millions out of it, but damaging, in my opinion, the free press in the process.
Absolutely. And, you know, Harry, I would argue that somebody needs to sit down and talk to him, because it's getting quite disturbing. You know, there was this recent claim, this ludicrous claim that they got chased through Manhattan at breakneck speed by squads of paparazzi, that both the police and the mayor of New York said, well, the mayor of New York said, breakneck speed in Manhattan. Have you been to Manhattan? Pretty unlikely. So that was called into question as well. And his sort of claims seem to be getting more and more fantastical. And as you quite rightly say, Neil, it doesn't seem to understand the legal process. When in this case against the Mirror, when the Mirror's barrister, after interrogating him for 7 hours in the dock, towards the end of that long ordeal, said to Harry, well, look, you know, you've made 40 claims of illegal stories, and some 16 of them extremely serious. Do you have any evidence for them? He said, no. He said, so you don't have any evidence to prove any of your claims? And Harry said, no, that's why I'm here. As if a lawsuit, as if a court case, you go into it with no evidence and you roll the dice and you hope for the best and you hope that maybe the chips come down in your favour. That is a profound misunderstanding of what the legal process is, isn't it?
But, you know, I thought that was exceptionally revealing. What it showed, in fact, was these weren't his claims. These weren't allegations he was making. He was simply spilling out a load of ideas that had been put to him by the lawyers who are fronting this case, who are making millions upon millions of pounds out of this case. What they're doing, they simply spoon-fed him these things that he then repeated. And as you say, and he did exactly the same in the Mirror case, incidentally. He did the same thing here, and he's done the same thing against the Mail. He simply said, well, I haven't got another answer, so I think it must be phone hacking.
Yeah,
that is enough, according to him. Simply, the Prince's guess ought to be the writ of law. Well, it's an outrage, it's insulting, and it demeans our legal system. I really believe Prince Harry is damaging the British legal system by these spurious cases. And, you know, whatever, he's going to bring through a whole, well, he's been allowed to retain several complaints. What none of this addresses in terms of what these private detectives and others are alleged to have done is, Harry is permanently surrounded, or was permanently surrounded, by police private protection officers.
Yeah.
So, you know, how on earth they were able to commit these offences? Obviously, the police protecting him weren't very good.
None of it holds water, Neil, and I fear you're quite right. Harry is too surrounded by yes men who go, yes, Harry, do this. Yes, Harry, do this. And I think he is now in a predicament that is really, really disturbing. And somebody somewhere needs to sit down with him and stop him from carrying on with this deranged campaign against the media, which is resulting in his own humiliation. Thank you very much for your time, Neil. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you. That's Neil Wallis, media commentator, former newspaper editor, Fleet Street editor, and he worked on the News of the World. He was Deputy News of the World Deputy Editor there, so he knows his onions when it comes to this story. Is Harry too surrounded by yes men? Should he desist from this deranged campaign against the media?